Fairy tales. They're the stories we grow up with. Cinderella's glass slipper, Little Red Riding Hood's wolf, Hansel and Gretel's candy-coated doom. But where do they come from? Why do they exist at all? Are they just fanciful bedtime tales, or do they sprout from something real? Something buried deep in human history? Let's unravel the origins of fairy tales and see what they reveal about us. Most fairy tales we know today, like those collected by the brothers Grimm or Charles Perrault, weren't born in books. They started long before, passed down through whispers, around fires, across generations. Scholars trace their roots back thousands of years to oral traditions in ancient cultures. Take Cinderella. The version with the pumpkin coach and fairy godmother came from Perrault in 1697. But a Chinese tale, Ye Xian, from the 9th century, has a girl with a magic fish helping her escape hardship. Similar stories pop up in Egypt, Greece, even medieval Europe. Why? Because the idea, a downtrodden soul rising above, echoes across human struggles everywhere. These tales weren't written down until the 1700s and 1800s, but their seeds go deeper. Folklorists like the Grimms, who published Grimm's fairy tales in 1812, didn't invent them. They collected them from peasants, midwives, and villagers in Germany. Hansel and Gretel, with its starving kids and witch's oven, feels eerie, but it might reflect real fears. In medieval Europe, famines were brutal, parents abandoned children, and some turned to cannibalism. The story's Gingerbread House, a fantasy born from hunger so desperate it dreamed of food. Fairy tales, it seems, often twist reality into something darker, stranger, but recognizable. So why do they exist? One big reason: survival. Fairy tales were lessons wrapped in magic. Little Red Riding Hood, first polished by Perrault, warns of wolves, maybe literal ones in Europe's forests, or maybe men preying on the naive. The red cape, some say, hints at puberty, a girl stepping into danger. It's a cautionary tale, told to keep kids sharp, to teach them the world bites back. Same with Beauty and the Beast, rooted in older myths like Cupid and Psyche from Roman times. It's about taming the wild, whether nature, a spouse, or your own fears. These stories stuck because they taught us how to live. But are they real? Not in the literal sense. No fairy godmothers or talking wolves. Yet they're built from fragments of truth. Look at Jack and the Beanstalk, an English tale from the 1700s. A poor boy trades a cow for magic beans, climbs a stalk, and steals from a giant. It's wild, but it mirrors medieval life, peasants dreaming of outsmarting lords, of flipping a rotten system. Or take Snow White, with her jealous stepmother and poison apple. The Grimms heard it from rural storytellers. But some link it to real figures, like Margaretha von Waldeck, a noble from the 1600s whose stepmother hated her, and whose family owned mines worked by dwarf-like children. The apple, maybe a nod to poison plots in royal courts. Fairy tales exaggerate, but they borrow from the grit of history. They also exist to wrestle with the unknown. Before science explained storms or sickness, people spun tales to make sense of chaos. Rumpelstiltskin, where a miller's daughter must guess an imp's name to save her child, dates back to Germanic folklore. It's about outwitting fate, or maybe bargaining with spirits older cultures feared. These stories gave shape to mysteries, turning terror into something you could beat with cleverness or courage. Over time, fairy tales evolved. The Grimms softened theirs for kids. Early versions were bloody, like Cinderella's stepsisters hacking off toes. Disney later polished them into happy ever afters. But the core stayed. Tales born from real woes, real hopes. They're not history books, but they're not pure fiction either. They're echoes of human experience, famine, fear, injustice, mixed with a dash of wishful thinking. So, where do fairy tales come from? From us, from ancient voices trying to explain life's mess. Why do they exist? To warn, to teach, to dream. Are they real? Not quite, but they're shadows of what was, stretched into magic. Next time you hear Once Upon a Time, remember, it's not just a story, it's a piece of who we've always been.